Yo, what's poppin', people? It's Dante. This morning I want to share with you my thoughts about the Ricoh GR3X for street photography. And I just want to give some candid thoughts about it because I really believe this camera is the best for street photography. And so essentially I want to share my love and my passion and my joy for this camera as somebody who's been photographing for the past decade and is very enthusiastic about just going out there and making pictures. I actually don't really contemplate the gear that I'm using too much, but I want to share some thoughts about my camera equipment in these videos because it's providing me more joy and lust for life, where I'm photographing more than I've ever photographed in my entire life because of the equipment that I'm choosing to use. And what that means is the fact that I have a camera that fits in my front right pocket and that essentially lives on this wrist strap 24/7 throughout my entire day is allowing me to enter this spirit of play, of photographing consistently throughout my life. And I like to think that because the Ricoh is so small and is so compact, I'm essentially allowing myself to live my everyday life and bring the camera for the ride, where I don't need to go out there and put my photography hat on, wipe down my lens, and go out there and practice photography as this very serious thing. However, I can be in any situation, anywhere in the world, in my hometown or abroad, and bring the camera along with me, simply going through my everyday routine, my everyday life, and snapshot my way through life. And so I find that this camera is so powerful because it is this niche product, this niche device, this niche tool that allows you as an individual to empower yourself wherever you may be in any given situation. And what that means is you have the ability to basically photograph every single day without excuses when using a compact digital camera, whereas going out there with a big camera that you need to put on your neck and lug around with you, speaking from personal experience, this really does get in the way for me, even using a Fujifilm X Pro series camera. Like, that camera being compact and small enough, it's a rangefinder style camera, gets in the way for me. And this is my personal experience. I feel like when I have to have a camera on my neck, everything else in my day just feels off. Like, I feel like I have this chore, this burden on my neck that I have to tend to. And this to me is why I believe compact is the future. I think more camera companies should be making cameras that are as small as your palm. Because the camera technology has gotten to a point where it's so advanced. We have so many megapixels and different lenses and different, cameras to choose from. But the Ricoh really simplifies and strips you down to the bare bones, the bare necessity of a black box, a built-in focal length like a 28 or a 40, and a little shutter button, right? You got some dials, right? You have some different ways you can set the camera up if you want to photograph in manual mode. But the best way to photograph with this device, with this camera, is to just shoot with P mode. Shoot with either the program mode, or personally I like aperture priority. I still like to shoot at f8 or somewhere like that. And everything else is automatic. All you have to do is recognize when to click the button, right? Maybe adjust your little shutter guy a couple times or whatever, your little dial if you need to, and it's just like photography simplified. Photography is easy. And I think that we allow ourselves to overcomplicate things through the tools and through the camera equipment that we choose to use. And while we should choose to use and photograph with whatever we like, if we're seeking the most pleasure, the most joy, and the most simple solution, I can't see any other solution but something that's compact, that fits in your pocket. And unfortunately, it seems like the Ricoh is the best one that does that. And so for me, again, I'm not this big camera guy. I'm just here to share the fact that a compact camera just allows more production. A compact camera allows the ability for you to photograph with flexibility, despite your location. Like for me, when I'm commuting to work, I'll photograph out the window. I'll make self-portraits. I'll walk on my trail during break. I'll take pictures throughout the day and find myself enjoying using the macro mode and getting close to details and photographing different things that I otherwise wouldn't photograph because of the camera I choose to use. Where the Ricoh is just there. It's something that doesn't get in the way. as opposed to an interchangeable lens system. You know, for me, the compact nature of a camera, it just defeats all other cameras because of that fact that I can bring it with me and it's lightweight. The fact that it doesn't take up any space. You know, where when I pack my backpack, I can simply travel with just this one camera in my pocket, a couple pairs of clothes, and just hit the road. You know, I don't need a bunch of lenses. I don't need a couple of different cameras. And this to me simplifies my life. It allows me to produce more. And so the goal for me as a photographer ultimately is to remain curious, to continuously press the shutter. And there hasn't been a time in my life where I've been pressing the shutter as much as I am now using the Ricoh GR3 and using the Ricoh GR3X. And to me, this is why I believe this is the greatest tool for a street photographer, because as street photographers, it takes a lot of time for us to make these photographs that describe our vision cohesively. It's something very difficult to put together a frame through the foreground, the middle ground, the background. It's very difficult to have the stars align in front of your camera as you press the shutter at the right space at the right time. But when you're always available and you're always ready to go because you have this in your pocket and because you're just there and prepared, you enter this flow state. You enter this very creative, everyday kind of like stream of production, stream of photographing. And yeah, it's just a very empowering thought, the fact that I can always create. You know, despite how mundane, despite how boring or banal things may seem, I always can turn to the camera that's in my pocket. I can always pull this out from my pocket and snapshot and make some photo, make something from nothing, and give my life more meaning. And to me, this is what it's all about. You know, the camera is merely the excuse that gets me out the door to go and see the world, to go and see new places. And, you know, for me, I don't want to treat the camera as this serious, thing where, put the photography hat on, wipe the lens down, let me go and tell this visual story. I'm a visual storyteller. Let me go and, find the theme and the project. Just stop taking it so seriously. Just go out and follow your curiosity. I mean, this to me is so liberating because the goal for a photographer is to photograph with longevity, to continuously photograph until the day that you die. And if you get caught up with choosing the right camera and testing this lens and, giving yourself a headache through camera decisions and decision fatigue, well, you're not going to actually just go out there and do the thing. And so what if I were to tell you, if you were to sell all of your camera gear and strip down to a single compact digital camera like the Ricoh GR, and just keep that camera in your pocket, you'd become a better photographer. Like, I genuinely think people have too much decision fatigue with photography. Like, this is my biggest issue that I feel like people face, and it really is baffling to me because I understand the joy of cameras and I understand the joy of the medium of photography. But if we get too caught up in that medium, in the fact that we are photographers and we identify with our, our selves as a photographer, and that's like our thing. Like, we're a photographer, we're a camera guy. I need to have a million different cameras for a million different situations or whatever the case. It's, I believe, really going to limit you. Look, I think if you're just a real one, if you're a real one and you just like being out there in the world, you don't really need a camera. Like, I don't need a camera. I just need a black box with a shutter. I don't need all the bells and whistles. I just need that excuse for me to remain curious. And so, these are my personal thoughts. This is my idea about the Ricoh GR and why I believe it to be the best in the game. Yeah, I think if you just simplify things and give yourself this limitation of just one camera and one lens, you can't unscrew the Ricoh lens, right? Maybe you need to baby your camera. You want to get one of those little filters? Okay, get a little filter for it. I don't care if sensor dust gets in my camera. I mean, seriously, like, it's a very precarious camera. It's a little digital device. You got to be more, careful. Maybe it's not weather sealed, right? It's not like these kind of fancy cameras. it's very different in that regard. And so, yeah, I don't baby my camera. I bring it around, I bang it around, but I don't, I don't leave it off a wrist strap like certain people that just don't know how to take care of their camera and drop it. If you get a camera, strap like this, it locks in. You're not dropping the thing. So maybe the wrist strap and the ability for you to photograph is something that is new and different when you use this camera. And, because you think of a camera, it's like you put it on your neck and, you raise it to your eye, and you're shooting this particular way. But when this thing is just on your wrist, right? You can throw this thing up and you kind of you have this more fluid, it's a more fluid movement. It's just a way more fluid shooting approach. Like when I'm on the streets and I'm photographing candidly as people are coming my way, and I'm kind of just there and prepared with my camera, and I'm looking and photographing and observing, all I really need to do is make like a minor tweak, a minor this. Like I'm not like, I don't know, it's not this like game where you have to like really line stuff up, and it's very much a fluid approach to photographing. When I see something, I can quickly react and respond because it's like on my wrist. Like there's less of like the need to like draw the camera, right? And like to draw it to photo, it's just so much more fluid. Because your fingers on the shutter, you're just right there, and you don't have to raise like using an LCD screen to me is the most liberating thing. Like I think if you're shooting street and you're making candid photos, this is actually a much better approach, I believe, is to use the screen, because there's nuances and there's differences to the compositions that you can make through your intuition, through how you position your physical body with the camera and press the shutter in relationship to the subject, where having this camera glued to your wrist becomes the ultimate extension of your body, of your mind, of your eye, and you forget that you even have a camera with you. Like for me, the Ricoh GR3X is the closest thing to not having a camera. And to me, this is so liberating. And this is the conclusion of the video, because I don't like cameras. I don't want a camera. I need a Ricoh because of that fact. It's the closest thing to not having a camera. I don't like cameras. I don't necessarily like photography and being a photographer. I just want to live my everyday life and fuel myself with curiosity. And yeah, Ricoh is the closest thing to not having a camera. And this is why it's so great. That's all. I think that's a good conclusion. Cameras. Perhaps no one has yet been truthful enough about what truthfulness is. The Ricoh GR is the truth. Compact is the future, baby. You don't need a big camera. You don't need a fucking lens, dude. You don't need a camera at all. You don't need a camera.